Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of my What If Football Manager series. Today we have got a little bit of a special one as well, because this is one that was requested by one of the viewers. Thank you very much to Jamie Farrant, who wanted to see what would happen with AFC Bournemouth's recent takeover. So obviously we've had Michael Jordan, the actor, not the basketball player, is taken over along with a couple of American businessmen, taken over Bournemouth, hoping, I'm assuming, to establish them in the Premier League and maybe even take them on to further glory. So what we've done is we've made some adaptations in the editor to have a look at exactly how they would get on over the next 15 seasons. Can they push into that top four? Have they got that kind of financial backing? Obviously, I've had to kind of chop and change it a little bit just to see how they get on, because I have no how much money they've got. So I've kind of looked at what they bought over the January transfer window. They spent kind of £60 million. So I've kind of adapted it to see exactly what they're going to get on with the kind of budgets that I think they're probably going to get on with. If you enjoy this video and the other ones as well, the other Football Manager videos that I've done, then please like, comment. I'd love to hear some more comments of videos you'd like to see, different kind of experiments that we want to do with this, and of course subscribe to the channel. I've been away for a couple of weeks, half term, kind of a bit of travelling, etc. So I'm back making these videos. Please subscribe so you don't miss out on any future stuff, because I've got the rest of my FIFA content coming out as well in the next couple of days. So then, as you can see from this screen, we've got a new owner, Bill Foley, who's taken over. I think he's like a hedge fund guy or something like that in America. We've got Nuala Saka, who's another kind of one of the money men, and then Michael B. Jordan in there as a director as well. I didn't know exactly what positions they held, but I put them down as directors. But the main man is Bill Foley, the owner. He's the money man at the end of the day. I think Michael B. Jordan's more there just to kind of have a bit of a famous face on it to stir up some media interest. But it's going to be really interesting to see how they get on. I've still got, obviously this is the start of the season, the first season, so Gary O'Neill is in charge. Well, he will be in charge. At the moment I'm in charge because I've had to go in and take over, but obviously it will be Gary O'Neill as the caretaker manager. Let's see how he gets on, how long he stays in there. I can't imagine he is, but it'll be really interesting to see how they get on in these first couple of seasons as they try and establish themselves in the Premier League. So looking at the season preview then, they are looking to be finishing 19th according to the bookies. Now what I have done is they've obviously made their signings in the summer transfer window anyway, so I've disabled the summer transfer window for this save. They can start buying players again in January. They've got a bit of advantage because they've got those January players already in. So you'd like to think, I think they can survive relegation. I think they can do it as long as they spend a bit of money. They stand a decent chance. There's enough bad teams down there that they should be able to compete pretty well, I think, in this first season. In terms of them moving on, let's have a look at the end of this season, see how they get on, see if they manage to stay up. And I'm kind of hoping they do, obviously, because I want to see how they get on. But it'd be interesting to see, even if they do go down, whether they're able to use that kind of financial backing to kind of move on. One thing before we move on, I completely forgot to mention, is that one of the things, we've kind of kept it pretty much as it is, obviously up their money, etc. But we have moved them into a new stadium. I wanted to see from the comment that I had whether what would it be like if they had a nice new stadium. So I've given them a 52,000 seater stadium, the Steve Fletcher Stadium. Steve Fletcher being a massive AFC Bournemouth legend. But it'd be interesting to see. They haven't bought it though; they've rented it at the moment. £300,000 per year, not much pocket change really for a Premier League team. But let's see how they get on, and hopefully that bringing in those fans, that extra kind of revenue, might make them stand even more of a chance. So then, end of season one. Let's see how Bournemouth got on. Have they managed to stay up? We will have a good look for you now, and hopefully, fingers crossed, they have. It's disappointment, I'm afraid. They finished 19th where the bookies thought they would. They've gone down with Southampton, my team, and Brentford. 4 points from getting away from the drop. Not really good enough. Looks like they struggled to score goals. 22 goals scored. Only 8 wins and 8 draws, and then 22 defeats. So that early injection of money obviously wasn't enough to save them, which is a real shame, but not unexpected, I don't think. Surprisingly as well, they haven't really splashed the cash. £15 million of transfers they brought in last season. That is not going to be really enough, and they only really bought Isaiah Jones from Middlesbrough, who's a wing back / attacking midfielder. Nothing great there. And Shomurodov, there we go, from Roma. Again, small money signing, and Perez as well from Leicester. Okay, he's an established Premier League player, so that probably wasn't a bad move. And how did he get on in the league? 3 goals, 3 of their 22 goals, and that was from January as well. So they struggled to score. They obviously really did struggle there, but they've kept their powder dry. And it'll be interesting to see how they get on next season in the Championship. You'd like to think they're going to be going straight back up again. In terms of finances then, as you can see, they've still got a massive budget here. £108 million transfer budget for this season, £334 million in the bank. They're not short of cash. They should absolutely blow the Championship away this season. Perhaps unsurprisingly, they're one of the favourites to go back up again. I'm surprised they're not the favourite, but I suppose Brentford have probably got a stronger squad anyway. Having a couple of years in the Premier League. So the 3 relegated teams, unsurprisingly, are expected to come straight back up again. So then let's move straight on to Season 3. We're going to move forwards a couple of seasons, see if they've managed to get up, as well as whether they managed to stay up, or maybe they're squandering down in the Championship. They might just, it's not always as easy as you think it is to get out of that league. It's a really competitive one. So let's see how they get on in 2 seasons' time. So then we're in to see the end of Season 3, and the eagle-eyed of you will see that Bournemouth are still in the Championship. Let's have a look, see if they went up and then straight back down again. You never know, because we've not gone forwards 2 seasons. I will be really surprised if they have not gone up, at least. Well, it would have been the last season. Yeah, that's a real surprise. I was expecting this team to really do well. So let's see how they've got on the last couple of years. So first season then in the Championship, Bournemouth managed to finish 9th. That is pathetic, quite simply. Brentford and Sheffield United and then Middlesbrough through the playoffs have managed to get up there. That's really poor showing, I must admit. And then last season, a bit of improvement. They managed to get themselves up into the playoffs, but again, falling well short of where they need to be. I'm going to have a look now and see about managers, who's been in charge, because I can imagine when they're throwing the money around, the owners are going to want some instant success. So Gary O'Neill was in caretaker position. Chris Wilder actually took over for them when they were in the Premier League. He obviously was in charge for just shy of 2 years, so he's taken them down. Championship, that pretty much looks like they've taken over and finished that 9th slot. Then Mike Beale came in, whose previous role actually was at QPR. He took over from Bournemouth. Pretty good pedigree manager, actually. Looks pretty decent there. Was only in charge for just over a year. Then he pretty much left, obviously because of me. I'm in charge now. So he's still in charge of the team. But one of the interesting things I'm looking at here is that the attendances that they're getting out, they're still working off 10, 11,000. Have they moved back into it? Were they in a temporary stadium? No, they are still in a 52,000 seater stadium. How they just cannot get the people to go to the games. They're, in terms of their crowds, that is a real surprise. Let's have a look at the supporter profiles and see what kind of season ticket holders they're getting. So yeah, there you go. It's only 6,000 season ticket holders in a 52,000 seater stadium. The big stadium basically is not going to do them any favours. They can't fill it. They can't even get anywhere near to filling it, which is probably going to hinder them more than anything actually when they're working at 20% stadium capacity, filling it up. So the last thing we'll look at then is the transfers they made in those 2 seasons. This was the season, their last season of the Premier League. They went out and spent a little bit of money, £34.5 million. Understand them being a little bit more frugal because obviously they're the parachute payments. However, they've transferred out 53 million, so they've got rid of a few guys, made a bit of a profit on Perez. Lloyd Kelly's gone, Kiefer Moore's gone, Neto's gone. Although they didn't get any money really for those. Lloyd Kelly 18 million, Ryan Christie 18 million. Tavernier only 2.5 million. That's a real surprise. In terms of who they bought, Visser, Carl Darley, that's a good signing there. Carl Darley for 1.1 million. Andros Townsend, Pontus Jansson. So a few of the older guys, Mikel Antonio. There's good signings there, I must admit. But no one there really to get them out of that league. In terms of this season, then they have splashed the cash. They spent 64 million. That's pushed them up a couple of places. What big signs have we got in here? Billy Gilmore from Brighton. Juan Larios from... Okay, a couple of players from Southampton. Kaleta Sarr. Juan Larios, he's a good player, but a bit too small to be a full-back, I think. Some solid players there, but still not good enough to get them out. Let's have a look another couple of seasons in the future, and let's see if they manage to finally get themselves out of the Championship. So we have moved on to season 5 then, and good news, Bournemouth are back in the Premier League again. They've managed to get themselves back up there, which is great news. Let's have a quick look and see how they can manage to get out of the Championship and any good signings that they've made. So then this was their position. They finished 6th this season before, and they've got another 6th spot. So it's another playoff finish for them, another playoff agony. So they spent another season in the Championship. This is just, it's not good enough. But interestingly enough, they've only sacked one of their managers so far, which was Wilder, who finished 9th. So let's see if what they did. The next season they went up automatically in 2nd spot. A much better season there. And finally got themselves back into the promised land. However, this is their first season back. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they get on with that one. First things first then, let's have a look at managers. So Mick Beale did not last much longer. Another kind of 5 or so months after the last look we had at them. Then Tommy Elphick came in. He was the caretaker manager only for 15 days. Then David Fox took over and is been in charge for nearly 2 years now. So he's the one who's got them promoted, and is looking like he's done a pretty good job so far. The last time we looked at the transfers, they'd spent that 69 million. The next season after that, which again ended in playoff failure, a little bit more of a kind of evened out transfer window there. 45.5 million transfers in, 30 million transfers out. Junior Firpo, he's a pretty good player. Who else have we got in here? Most of them, Harwood Bellis, Carlin Grant, some reasonable Championship players there. That's all you can really say there. There's nothing there that really stands out. In terms of sales, David Brooks finally has left, and Kaleta Sarr, they made a bit of profit on him as well. So fair play on that one. But nothing spectacular there. However, looks like they've finally built a good Championship squad, which is obviously going to mean that squad is going to have to make a massive improvement for this season, because they ain't going to survive in the Premier League with that. Perhaps unsurprisingly, they are favourites to go down again. I'd love to think that they're actually going to stay up this season. We'll have to see, but they're going to need to make some big improvements. They've spent 100 million of their budget. A lot of that would have been from kind of staying in the Championship for 4 seasons or so. Transfer budget is much lower now, 47 million. I think the owners are getting a bit fed up of bailing out this football club. I talk owners, it's all changed again. The owner's gone. There's now a new chairman in, who's Stuart Donald. Sarkar's still there, so in theory they're still owned and got the money, but it looks like it's all changed a bit at the top, as the big names have gone. They didn't like it in the Championship. Obviously, they've left the club, so the money could still be there, but they haven't got that big name anymore. Michael B. Jordan has gone. So on that bombshell, then let's move forward a little bit more. Let's go forward 5 seasons. See if Bournemouth have finally managed to establish themselves as a Premier League team. Less and less expectation now that they're going to make any real kind of inroads in the Premier League. I think it's just all about now becoming that big Premier League team. So we are on to end of season 10 then. AFC Bournemouth are a Premier League team. Whether they are a Premier League team because they've stayed in the Premier League all that time, or whether or not they are have been kind of flip-flopping backwards and forwards, let's have a look and see how they've gone over the last couple of seasons. So the end of season 1 then, or end of season 6 I should say, they've managed to stay out of relegation zone. Bournemouth have finished 16th spot, 40 points, that golden target that they managed to get. A pretty good result first season out. The next season they were relegated. I think this is going to be the theme that we're going to see now. They just haven't quite got that kind of pulling power to bring big name players in. So end of season 3 then, the Sky Bet Championship table, they finished third, just outside of the automatic promotion places. And then, as it always seems to happen, if you just miss out, then you tend to miss out on the playoffs as well. Crystal Palace being their nemesis again. But it's not worked out for them that season. But however, they did go up the next season in second spot. Southampton actually absolutely hammered that league that year. But yeah, just went up on goal difference in the automatic promotion spaces. And at the end of that season, the first season back in the Premier League again, they managed to stay up, although only on 32 points. And that was still good enough for 3 points away from the relegation zone. So 3 really, really poor performances there for Wolves, Villa and Coventry. Great to see Coventry back up there as well, I must admit. Although not for long, obviously. So they're kind of flip-flopping between. And when they do come up, they do okay. But lucky to actually get away from relegation there with 32 points. That's a pretty poor points total. I'm interested to see that first season back in the Premier League. They only spent £9 million to replace that squad. That is absolutely astounding. And they stayed up as well with that team. So loads of free transfers, loads of things there, and actually made a profit on what they did. The next season, as always is, they spent big and they went down. Incredible, really. After that splurge, when they'd gone down, they spent 53 million quid, brought in 29, so still spending. Bought Brozier as well. He's a pretty good player, but nothing there again. So that was the first season when they had back in the Championship, where they failed to go up, and then they spent 126 million, although brought in 147 million. So they sold some good big players there. 29 million, Mark Rocca, Kelvin Yeboah, Juan Larios finally left back to West Ham. Yeah, sold some good players, brought in some half-decent players as well, spending big in the Championship, and that was the season they managed to get themselves promoted. Then first season back in the Premier League, spent big. Yeah, 110 million, 45 million going out. So they are spending money. They just cannot seem to spend the money to really kind of sort themselves out and sustain themselves in that Premier League. One last thing I wanted to do as well was see how they're getting on with their home. They are finally starting to get some crowds. 28,000, 34,000, 34. I mean, we're still talking about 2/3 of the stadium full. However, they are finally starting to get some fans, which is nice for Bournemouth. So as I said, let's move forwards. Another 5 seasons, the last kind of stop we'll have on this journey, and let's see if Bournemouth have finally done it. So we're at the end of season 15, and would you know it, Bournemouth are back in the Championship again. I think it's pretty clear that this money that's been invested into this club is not going to make them the next big thing. I don't think probably anybody realistically thought that, but I thought it would be at least enough to kind of sustain them in the Premier League in that kind of mid-table, maybe mid-lower table. But as we know, you just have to have one bad season in the Premier League and it could all go wrong for you. They have won one additional Sky Bet Championship, but there's no cups, no real kind of progression there for the club apart from increased interest from fans. So I think overall you could probably say it's probably been a bit of a failure in all honesty. The last time we looked at them, they finished 16th on 32 points. The following season after that, they were relegated. 24 points, pretty poor showing. No real fight there from them at all. It's a bit disappointing really. I was expecting them to do so much better. Following season after that is when they won their championship title. So pretty good going there, 90 points. Decent pull away from everybody else. But you'd expect that, they're kind of flip-flop team. They kind of sustain some of the Premier League players. They'll get rid of a few of them. But yeah, still moving along and back up to the Premier League. They did their usual thing the season after that, finishing 16th, 40 points, managed to get themselves over that line, but a 5-point cushion to the rest of the teams. So that's reasonable going. Made a bit of progression the season after that, getting up to 14th spot, 46 points. That's a pretty good total. However, the season after that, they just fell apart again. Back down, relegation, 36 points. And that's pretty much been the story of it, I think, all the way through. I could have a look through all the transfers, etc. again, but unfortunately it's pretty null and void now. It's mostly going to be regens, and they're probably going to be spending around about the same amounts of money, 100 million or so. It's just not enough to build a squad. You're buying kind of 15, 20 players for 100 million. You're talking about a lot of average players, unfortunately, in this kind of market. So it looks like Bournemouth are going to continue to kind of float backwards and forwards between the Premier League and the Championship. Last thing I did want to see, though, was whether or not they've managed to finally get that stadium filled. They're up to kind of, well, that's Liverpool, so you'd expect more fans. 27, 38,000, 28,000, 33. They're a reasonable sized crowds now, although still the stadium is pretty much empty. It's kind of two-thirds empty, two-thirds full, I should say. Bournemouth are a much bigger club than they were before, but they're still nowhere near where they need to be to compete in the Premier League. In terms of money, they've pretty much kind of thrown away 200 million quid. They've not really achieved anything or got any further after £200 million. So I think it shows that no matter what, you've got to be, if you're going to get big investors, they need to be big investors. It's showing with clubs, my team, Southampton, we're probably going to go down this season. We've spent money, but it's just nowhere near enough to compete. And teams like Newcastle, who are you buying those kind of 60, 70 million pound players rather than 15 million pound players. Quantity over quality, it just doesn't work, unfortunately. So that is the end of that one. It was interesting. I was really hoping that they would become at least a kind of mid-table Premier League team, maybe win a cup, but they haven't really achieved anything. I think the kind of the size of the club, as well as the limited investment, even though it is investment compared to what they're used to spending, it's just not enough. It's quite simply not enough, and there's far too many bigger established teams in that league. It's a shame. It would have been cool to see them do well, but I think it's a bit of a damning thing on the Premier League, in all honesty, that sometimes, no matter how much you invest, it's not going to be enough. If you enjoyed it, though, please hit that like button, stick some comments in. I'd love to hear any future things that you'd like to see. There'll be I've got a few ideas that are coming up, which are going to be a little bit longer and going to be kind of looking at kind of the rise of teams and how things would happen. But I'd love to hear some of your ideas, and obviously please subscribe. We're getting close to that 200 subscribers now, and I'd love to hit that in the next couple of months. And you can join me as we try and kind of find out and bring you some more interesting videos. I hope you enjoyed that one, and I'll see you all in the next one.